Guys, good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys through the network. We have a Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience at our disposal. We live stream this show on every social media platform known to mankind, where you, the viewer and listener, can interact with the show and shape the discussion each day. It's open dialogue, oftentimes crowdsourced topic matter, where you, the viewer and listener, can really shape the show by sending me ideas. That's happened today. So we will talk a lot from a business, inflation, vulnerability standpoint. Topics I want to cover today: Restaurant Week, a 5-cent plastic bag tax coming to Charlottesville. A Virginia restaurant on the menu literally has a line on the menu saying this is an inflation tax, a tax that we're going to pass on to you. We're also going to talk the downtown mall becoming a historical landmark, registered as a historical landmark potentially. I want to ask Alex Urpí this question: has inflation plateaued? I mean, you're starting to see that in some of the commodities. Lumber, you're starting to see that with fuel. Oil futures are down 20%. I think we're all seeing $3.89, $3.79 at the pump right now, where 2.5 weeks ago it was $4.99. Gas has dropped about $1 a gallon in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. $1 a gallon adds up. My tank holds 17 gallons. That's $17. If I'm filling up 1.5 times a week, that's 6 fill-ups a month. Call it 5 fill-ups a month for the sake of easy math. 17 times 5, guys, $85 in savings just from gas dropping $1. So we'll talk about that with Alex Urpí. I'm going to ask the Antonio Banderas of finance, what's the most fragile USA business category, the most fragile or vulnerable category of business in our country, in our region, in our Commonwealth, in our Central Virginia home. So all those topics and more. The show is presented today by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. The best dispensary in Charlottesville is Skooma Boutique Dispensary, with locations on the downtown mall on Elliowood Avenue. Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Our friends at Scott Wagner, Chiropractic and Sports Medicine, just fantastic people. Dr. Wagner has your back. And one of our newest sponsors and partners to the show, the Clifton in Keswick. Judah Wickhauer and I were there yesterday, and why don't we go to the 2-shot? Dude, the Clifton, a special place, man. I mean, it's just like this little tucked away oasis where you go 10 minutes from the urban center of Charlottesville, and you have an infinity pool. Brilliant. I mean, what strikes you of the Clifton?
Beautiful views. I mean, the flowers when they're in bloom are just incredible. And
you got to meet the bartender. You photographed some cocktails. I mean, talk to me about the cocktails you were photographing and what you saw from the restaurant and the staff yesterday. They've
got a great bar. They've got great options, and the drinks that I took pictures of. I mean, they're just fun. There was my favorite is the Envious. Ooh, tell me about the Envious. Green with envy. It's a green drink with envy? Yeah. What comes in the cocktail? I'd have to grab the cocktail menu list, but yeah, it's I think it's melon liqueur, and I'm not sure what else. But I took a little sip. Oh, drinking on the job. I like it. That's my boy. Drinking in the middle of the day. And I approve. I approve of the Envious. Okay. At VMV Brands and I Love CVille, if you get your work done, it's okay to drink on the job. Let me throw this to you. The restaurant, the name of the restaurant, and what strikes you from the restaurant. I'll offer some perspective as well. Well, the name of the restaurant is 1799, and as I haven't eaten there yet, I'd have a hard time giving you a whole lot of information. Sounds like you got a VIP invite coming as one of the co-stars of the I Love CVille Show. In fact, they were insisting that you come. I know. I talked to my friend the other day, asked him what days he was good for, so I'll give him the dates that I think I would probably like to come by, and I'm sure they'll accommodate. Scott Aaronworth, is it the Envious? Is that what it's called? The Green Envious. With Envy? Yes. It says, he looked at the menu. It has light rum, Midori pineapple, and lime soda. Midori is melon liqueur. Very nice, Scott Aaronworth. Thank you. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the Clifton,
literally one of the best culinary secrets in Central Virginia. It's this restaurant. The executive chef, formerly of Fawcett's fame. Fawcett's was the restaurant at Keswick Hall before Marigold. And I've experienced it. This man is a superstar, guys. An absolute superstar. And you go to the Clifton and you have some cocktails and some food, and you will leave feeling absolutely delighted and pleased. So the Clifton is something I cannot, and Judah and I cannot emphasize enough from an intimacy standpoint. A staff, the staff is top flight. The food is top flight. It's just a dynamic restaurant.
Yeah, no doubt.
I also want to encourage anyone that's watching the show to check out The Bear on Hulu. I understand in inflationary times, no one wants another monthly subscription, and Hulu can run you anywhere from $12.99 a month upwards to $70 a month if you get the all-inclusive package. I'll give you a pro tip. Here's a pro tip for the viewers and listeners. They offer a 1-month free trial if you don't want to sign up for the subscription. You can watch a lot of content in 1 month of a free subscription. The Bear is 8 episodes on season 1. The guy, if you've ever watched the Showtime show Shameless on Showtime, there's a character from Showtime from Shameless called Lip. He's the star of The Bear. And essentially, The Bear shows the nitty-gritty, the behind-the-scenes, the ruthless nature of working in a restaurant and in a kitchen when you have a lot of customers hangry and itching to eat in your restaurant. So it kind of gives you the authenticity factor of restaurant life. And if you read a lot of the reviews that have come in, it's got a score of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Very rare do you see 100s on Rotten Tomatoes. It is dynamite. My wife and I watched the first 8 episodes, which are roughly 30 minutes each, in a day and a half. 2 sittings. You will love it. Mark it down. The Bear on Hulu. Trust me, and then thank me later. All right, a lot I want to get to today. Carol Thorpe, welcome to the program. She's the queen of Jack Jewett. Carol, we love you. Carol spoke yesterday before City Council. In fact, why don't I start with what Carol had to say? She sent me some of her comments, pre-prepared comments. First, Carol, you're a tremendous writer. Second, Carol, you're a tremendous communicator of the written and spoken word. You have a gift. You're a talented writer, Carol Thorpe, and you know how to communicate and convey your thoughts to people. The gist of what she's saying, and I'll weave you into the mix here, Judah Wickower, the 5-year anniversary of August 12th, 2017 is now less than a month away. I mean, we're talking essentially 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And Carol has made the point that City Council, and she made the point during the Community Matters portion of last night's meeting, she made the point that the 5th anniversary of the violence upon Charlottesville is less than a month away. And she said, and I'll read a couple paragraphs from her statement. She says, "To date, I have not heard of any security measures planned by city government in case someone chooses to violently mark the occasion. History has shown that dangerous groups and individuals hold a peculiar penchant for milestone anniversaries." I've been thinking the same. She closes her statement by saying, "In conclusion, I urge you, City Council, to make whatever plans you can in the next 3 weeks so you will not be caught completely off guard. God forbid something violent occurs. While I certainly don't expect you to share detailed information with the public, you owe it all to us to show security is on your radar and of the highest priority." I concur. Do I think anything bad is going to happen August 12th? I don't know. We don't have crystal balls and we can't see into the future. A 5-year anniversary is a milestone anniversary. That is a milestone anniversary. I would love for public perception, for security and safety reasons, and just because I have this deep love for this community, I also would love to hear a plan of safety to prevent any anniversarial shenanigans and violence in this community. You surprised at all that we're 3 weeks and change from a 5-year milestone of the ugliest, nastiest, worst day in Charlottesville history, and there's been nothing from council or city hall about here's the plan of safety for this?
I'm actually not really that surprised. I mean, I know this may be a controversial viewpoint, but what happened in August 5 years ago was it was a clash. It's not like there was one group here, causing all the damage, and so I think for a like an anniversarial reprise, I don't know. I just feel like it would be very odd. I don't see it happening. I could be wrong, but it was this wasn't just a one-sided conflict where somebody came into the city and trashed the place. It was two sides, and they together caused basically a giant what show.
Yeah, it was an absolute mess. I was there, literally in front of the Macklin building here on Market Street. I realized the night before, which was the riots on UVA grounds, or the protests on UVA grounds with the tiki torches.
Yeah.
So when I saw on August 11th, which frankly speaking, A12 lives in infamy. August 11th was also terrifying.
Yeah.
For Cena McGill's husband, City Councilor Cena McGill's husband, his name is Tyler McGill, librarian. He got hit in the head that day and had significant head trauma and damage that he's still to this day recovering from.
That's terrible.
The sight or the memory of tiki torches and Nazis lighting up the grounds at the University of Virginia is still something that resonates with me and is still a very vivid memory. So A11, August 11th, 2017 is something that should not be forgotten either. Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, leaves this comment. Jerry, Mayor Snook says the CPD is depleted to the point that we are vulnerable for security in the case of violence on the A12 5th anniversary. There has been no proactive communication or outreach to other local or state entities for possible assistance if needed. This may cause concern. She also thanked both of us for bringing this up, and she also hopes nothing happens either. So here we have a 5-year anniversary. And I talked to a contact that is top of the totem pole in the Charlottesville Police Department last week. The vacancy level within the Charlottesville Police Department is still around 24%. That means roughly 1 in 4 positions in the Charlottesville Police Department are vacant or unfilled. Yeah. So if there's a time, and no one that's watching or viewing this program wants violence, we adore this city. Heck, the business is called I Love CVille. I mean, so with a business called I Love CVille, we love the community. But I mean, you got a couple of elements on the horizon where you're just kind of left scratching your head and you're wondering. In fact, we just saw Mayor Snook walk by our studio right there, literally.
Because he works down the hall.
His office is 30 feet from our studio. See him once, a couple times a week at least. You got 24% of your police department vacant. You got a milestone anniversary. And as of right now, there's no clear-cut plan in place. I would encourage the community, anyone watching or listening to this show, and we know city leadership watches the program, to just go about this from a cautious, common sense standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't really know, I can't think of what they would do in a, in a preparatory fashion.
I think what you just do is just have a presence. It's like, here's the presence, is like, when you have a policeman or a policewoman on the beat, the presence gives the feeling of safety. Like someone on the corner beat,
But where would you put someone?
I mean, you just gotta.
Would you have someone drive around
Let's look at the
park?
calendar. So hopefully it's not a weekend. So A12 is a Friday. Ideally, A12 would have been like a Tuesday or a Wednesday during the middle of the work week. A Friday, at least it's a work day, and it's not a Saturday or Sunday. I just like to see, starting on Thursday, August 11th, all the way through Sunday, August 14th, a focused and concentrated police presence around the downtown mall. And is it Emancipation Park or Market Street Park now? It's one of the two.
I don't know what they call it.
We'll call it Market Street Park, formerly known as Lee Park. Emancipation, I think it's Emancipation Park. I would just like to have a police presence on those days. That's not asking too much. That City Hall and City Council, I mean, we don't have a city manager.
Right.
So since we don't have a full-time city manager, we have a mercenary hired gun city manager who, I can say with confidence and conviction, was not here August 12th. So I just like to see a concentrated police presence starting Thursday, August 11th, and running all the way through Sunday, August 14th around the downtown mall. That's all I would like to see. Extra patrol cars and maybe some more boots on the street. Philip Dow, watching the program, he says this: the incompetence of CVille and Albemarle County is one reason I live in Fluvanna County on the Scottsville side. I grew up in the city of Charlottesville for 20 years, and I'm so glad I moved out and will never return. I'm sorry you won't return, Philip. I very much have appreciated, I will mention this on air. I very much appreciate your commenting on the show, Philip. I really very much do. And in fact, why don't I start with this? I would very much encourage all the folks that got a really sour taste in their mouths from August 12th because of the shenanigans and because of piss poor leadership. And I'm talking Signer, I'm talking former police chief Al Thomas. Carol, who was the governor during A12? Was it McAuliffe? See who the Virginia governor was, Judah, if you could, 2017. I think it was McAuliffe. Is that right, Carol? I would just like to see the folks that got this sour taste in their mouths because of A12, and then August 12th, then segued into the Nakia Walker era, where that was its own shenanigans, and yeah, Bob Yarborough says it was Terry McAuliffe. Yep. Thank you, Bob. I would just love to see the folks that got this sour taste in their mouths in Charlottesville give Charlottesville a second chance. I understand why you were sour to Charlottesville August 12, 2017, and I understand how that sourness compounded throughout the Nakia Walker era. You don't understand?
I don't understand how somebody could be soured on Charlottesville due to August 12th. I mean, nothing that happened on that day had anything to do with Charlottesville. It was a bunch of people bust into Charlottesville to cause problems. Whether they were
the black and brown community in Charlottesville would disagree with that statement. The black and brown community would disagree with that statement, and they would say
that there was a large portion of Charlottesville that was.
The black and brown community in Charlottesville has been very vocal about this, and they've said there's a history of systematic racism in Charlottesville, from Vinegar Hill to redlining to zoning to gentrification.
I don't doubt that they're right. But,
yeah, I have no doubt that they're right either.
What happened August 12th was not Charlottesvillians. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people see that, especially around here. I know that outside it may look different, but
I mean, talk about the guy that the murderer that murdered Heather Heyer, last name Fields. He drove from Ohio in a Charger to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
I mean, that
guy's an idiot.
That doesn't make any sense, because we all know that story is a little different than it was reported, right?
What's that?
I mean, you're right. The guy didn't drive however many hundreds of miles to come and spend the rest of his life in prison.
Well, maybe he did. I mean, baby, who knows what his motives are? I mean, neither you nor I would get in a vehicle and we wouldn't speed down 2nd Street,
Right.
the road that cuts across the downtown mall, at 50 miles an hour and ram our cars into a group of people. You wouldn't do that.
No, of course not. And not to defend the guy, but the first story I heard about it was the fact that his car was surrounded by people and he was probably, understandably, terrified. Now,
Well, he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been in a car during a riot. I'm not going to take even a breath of even being misconstrued of defending this guy. I think this guy is undoubtedly in the place he should be behind bars.
okay,
You disagree?
I'm sure he's a creep and a nut, but I certainly don't think he drove all this way to commit vehicular manslaughter on purpose.
Only he knows that. That's between him,
Yeah.
the
You're right.
Lord, and Lucifer.
Well,
That's between him, the Lord, and Lucifer.
okay.
Wait, you disagree?
That's just an odd way to put it.
How should I have put it?
I'm not sure what Lucifer has to do with it.
I mean,
but
do you think if the man doesn't change a lot of things, he's probably going to go see Lucifer?
Still an odd way to put
He
it.
murdered somebody.
Yeah.
Pretty challenging to get into the pearly gates after murdering somebody, unless you start repenting pretty quickly, pretty hard, and pretty authentically, and genuinely.
Or the day before you die.
Chad Wood says he is where he should be. Kevin Yancey, I think the example set by our local courts will will keep further BS from happening. I think they realize this area will not tolerate it again. That's a good point. They certainly have dropped the hammer on the Nazis around these parts. Let's go to Bobby Yarborough on the I Love CVille group. He's the king of Redfields. He says this is a perfect setup for those Patriot Front folks, the ones who tried to disrupt the Pride Parade in Boise to make a demonstration. They do that public performance thing. So, I mean, he's right. He's right. Do a little research online and you realize that the Charlottesville Police Department, 1 in 4 police officers, 1 in 4 desks of police officers in the department are empty and vacant. If you're a criminal and you want to commit a crime, do you go to the jurisdictions that have fully staffed police departments? Or do you go to the jurisdictions that have police departments that are distracted or not fully staffed? I mean, it seems like to me you would go to the jurisdictions that are not fully staffed. Danny O'Day says this, DOD, not a ton of people plan to kill folks. That's why manslaughter is different crime than first-degree murder.
Yeah.
That would be a reference to you there, Judah.
Yeah. So maybe I misspoke when I said manslaughter. What I meant was he clearly didn't come here to murder someone with his car.
I just want a police presence. I'd like to see a plan of attack.
I
Here,
understand.
what are we in the business of? What does VMV Brands do? We're in the business of,
It's right on the tip of my tongue.
you know this, 10 years I've been drilling this into your head. VMV Brands is in the business of what? What do we do for our clients?
It's so managed perception.
Thank you, Judah. VMV Brands, the advertising agency, is in the business of managing perception. If we can manage perception for our clients, we can drive brand awareness for our clients, which will attract new customers and incremental revenue for our clients. That's what an advertising agency does. I would like City Hall and City Council to manage perception. You manage perception by doing this. Here is our plan of attack. It doesn't even have to be like a book. It could be a one-sheeter that gets out into the media. We're going to have extra cops on the beat. We're going to have extra officers on the streets, extra patrol cars around the downtown mall, and we're committed to keeping the community safe and quiet, and we've partnered or we've had a strategic alliance or we're in open communication with the Virginia State Police. Just put it out there. Come on our show and talk about it. And that's how you manage perception and you create a sense of safety from that perception management for the community. All I would like, doesn't cost much money, heck, no money, right? You're sending a press release out to the media. The media will then turn that into the lead story on the 6 and 11 o'clock news, a front page story in the Daily Progress, and it will lead this talk show. That's all you got to do. Carol Thorpe is right, the Queen of Jack Jewett. She's right. Send a press release out. The last thing you want to do if you're in the perception management business is to say on the dais during the council meeting that we are vulnerable to a potential attack because the department is not fully staffed. And that was what was done last night. That's what was done last night. And that's what's being discussed now. And that's what's the chatter on social. Danny O'Day says, well, let's not forget that they did all that ahead of A12. For some reason, people always forget the crash helicopter that happened that day too. Very well said, Danny O'Day. A crash helicopter that led to a fallen officer. So good point from DOD right there. 5-year anniversary in 3 weeks. Neil Williamson, welcome to the program. All right, other topics that I want to get to on today's program. A Virginia restaurant has added an inflation fee tax. The inflation fee tax, I'm going to read it to you. This is from a Richmond television station. In fact, it's from CBS 6 in Richmond. His restaurant is Cheddar Jackson and Jackson Ward. And Cheddar Jackson and Jackson Ward on the menu is now adding a tax of 3.5% on the menu. I'm going to read it verbatim to you, what it says from the menu. With the skyrocketing cost of goods, materials, and labor, we have found it necessary to add a 3.5% inflation fee in lieu of consistently raising menu prices. We hope you understand.
That seems entirely reasonable.
That seems reasonable to me too.
Probably less than what they could be doing. I was just reading an article about
3.5%. I hate to say this, seems light.
Yeah.
For Cheddar Jackson in Richmond, the restaurant that's doing this.
Yeah.
3.5% is not going to cover this. Go ahead, Judah.
One of the stories that I sent you talks about profit margins being, always being tight, but now they're worse. And this is from Barbecue Exchange owner Craig Hartman.
Oh, he's institutional.
On the show.
Yeah.
He says he's seen a 125% rise in the price of pork.
Okay, explain this. Did he put that on social media?
No, this is on NBC 29.
Oh, this is the link you sent me. Okay, go ahead. You lead the show on this topic, please.
That's pork. That's what every barbecue.
That's his whole business.
Yeah, that's his business.
This is his business.
125% rise in the price of pork. Like, what do you do? You can't eat that. You can't eat that much of a.
No, you go out of business.
Yeah.
You go completely out of business.
But you also can't raise the price of your menu items 125%. You'd also go to business.
Mike Abrams, friend of the program, owner of Moe's Barbecue on Ivy Road, he was also quoted in your article.
Yeah.
And he says, he said this: chicken wings were outrageous for a while. Mm-hmm. And he said, now with the avian bird flu, everyone's forecasting that turkey is going to see a huge shortage going into the fall and Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, damn bird flu. What, are we going to have the bubonic plague next?
And then
we're going to have some locusts take over the world? Freaking bird flu. What the hell is a bird flu?
I hear locusts are good protein.
Bubonic plague and locust. You eat locusts?
There have been articles about people that are trying to convert people to ground insects.
We got.
Instead of
I'm going to go in a different direction than the ground insects and the protein on the talk show. Okay,
Seriously.
All right, we're going to change the topics here for those that have weak stomachs that are viewing and watching today's program. We have a bird flu. We have another variant of COVID. We have supply chain, labor shortage. We have inflation.
Don't forget monkeypox.
We have Russia. We have Ukraine. We have monkeypox. We have Brittany Griner trapped in Russia because she had a little weed in her carry-on, and now she's being used as a political pawn in a geopolitical mess, the superstar basketball player from the WNBA. If you're following that story, that's a terribly sad story.
Yeah.
I mean, a terribly sad story. It's been months that she's been in a Russian prison.
Yeah.
Now we have a bird flu. We got meat shortage. I mean, what is next? Is it a scurvy outbreak? Are we going to see an outbreak of scurvy?
I think that would require us to.
Are we going to have an outbreak? Is the bubonic plague coming back? Alex Urpí? The Antonio Banderas of finance is about to join us on set. I mean, what is next? Right? Do you ever wonder? You ever ask? It's like, what is next? And for those that are watching the program, no, Tanny O'Day said, don't forget the monkeypox. Those that watch the, Carol Thorpe says, and J-Lo's off the market. Jennifer Lopez got married. J-Lo got married for what, the fourth or fifth time?
I think there's some discussion about that, but I think it was like fourth. But it's Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Bennifer, right.
I thought they'd been married before, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think they ever got love cuffed. Did they get love cuffed before? I don't think they got love cuffed.
And if anybody,
someone who's getting love cuffed soon is in the green room. We're going to talk to him about that. We love this guy. He's got a fresh haircut, and it looked like he was playing games yesterday at the Sprint Pavilion. I got to ask him about that, the Ting Pavilion. Yeah, was it a few weeks ago? When that came up on social media, the photos of you playing games under the tent at the pavilion were Nicholas and Xavier and Michael like, what are you doing, Alex? You're playing games in the middle of the day. Is that what they said to you? And Alex said, that's called networking. I love Alex Urpí. He knows how to manage perception.
What kind of games are we talking?
Well, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Is the craziest thing that happened in 2022 that Jennifer Lopez got married? That might be the craziest thing of 2022. And Bill McChesney says, don't forget shark attacks and murdering hornets. We had rents escalate.
Shark attacks.
We had rents escalate 40%. We had properties appreciate 12% year over year. We had interest rates 2x in 30 days. 2022, good Lord, what are you doing to us? Please, 2022, get a little bit better. Alex, why don't we get you on set over here, my friend? I can't wait to talk to this guy.
2022 looked at the last 2 years and said, hold my beer.
Yeah. 2022 looked at 2020 and 2021, which were already difficult. Check out the new chairs as well.
I know, I'm liking them.
Tempur-Pedics over here, Alex.
They feel good.
Let's get the 3-shot on the Antonio Banderas of finance when you can, Judah.
My chiropractor's going to be very happy.
Oh, very nice.
He'll be like, oh, your back looks so much better.
We got 8 new Tempur-Pedic chairs, and we have 8 or 6 chairs over here we're going to have to sell. 3-shot is good to go, Judah. Give me the thumbs up. Oh, it's good to go. So, murdering hornets, the bubonic plague, bird flu, and Jennifer Lopez gets married.
It's crazy.
2022. Good afternoon, my friend. What's next?
Jared. Who knows? I try not to think about it sometimes. I'm like, can we have something positive, maybe? I mean, not that Jennifer Lopez getting married is not positive.
Oh, that's so positive.
I'm sure it's great for her and Ben Affleck, but
she is a beautiful lady. She does not age.
What is she, like 50?
For as long as it lasts, I suppose.
Dude,
what is she, like 50 now?
I think. Can you find out how old Jennifer Lopez is?
Yeah.
She's found the fountain of youth.
Some people have the genes.
Right?
She's up there with Tom Cruise that they don't change.
Yeah. Tom Cruise, Jennifer Lopez is a beautiful woman.
That's for sure.
That's for sure.
I'm not going to dispute that.
She's 52.
She's 52.
She looks good for 52.
Born in 69.
She looks like she's 22.
I want to look that good at 52.
Me too. What do we need to do for that? Or maybe get married 4 times and sing some songs and find a movie star for a husband. My friend, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well. You know, despite all the challenges out there, you got to just enjoy life, enjoy it day by day.
Amen. Well said. And that's why we love him. It's all about perspective here. So how about this question? Gas has dropped about $1 in 2.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. In fact, I saw $3.79. Lumber is falling.
Yep.
Oil futures are down 20%. A lot of commodities are dropping. Is inflation plateaued? Are we at the point that we can say this, or are you not ready to make that statement yet?
I'm not quite ready yet, and the reason for that is producer price index is still sitting there at 11, which is higher than CPI. That usually portends a higher CPI in the future. Difficult to say if we've plateaued, especially since obviously these things particularly commodities and energy, you can see bid fluctuations in short amounts of time. For all I know, I'd come out here and say, yeah, we've plateaued, and then 2 weeks from now, they're back up again. The concern, of course, is when you see commodity prices, oil futures declining, but that we look around, right? You look around, first thing you look around and see, is there more supply? No. The Saudis did not start pumping more oil. OPEC has no interest in helping us out. We are not pumping anymore. So you sit there and say demand has declined. And that would jibe with what we have seen in terms of GDP, both the first quarter and the projection for the second quarter. So unfortunately, recessionary pressures do push down energy and commodity prices. The hope, of course, is that if we are going to have recession, at the very least, it could do us a favor and push down inflation. That remains to be seen, because at this point, the challenge of something like inflation, of course, is you never know how much of inflation is attributable to what cause. In other words, we know some inflation is clearly attributable to energy prices. Some inflation is clearly attributable to the debt of the United States government. Some inflation was clearly attributable to supply chain issues. And but we'll never know, one of the challenges of economics, right, is you never know how much was each of those factors, how big was each of those factors. So if energy prices decline, that should help inflation. Is it enough to offset the inflation caused by having pumped $5+ trillion into the economy? Is it enough to offset supply chain issues? We'll find out shortly if these energy prices and these commodity prices hold.
Alex Urpí, guys, the CEO of Emergent Financial Services. Emergent Financial Services, a name, a business, and a brand that you can count on and trust. Here, Powell said he wanted to essentially destroy demand to get inflation in check. Demand does not seem to be destroyed here. I mean, we have travel at ridiculous levels where airlines could not keep up. Tickets the cost to fly in a plane were the highest they ever been were this summer. Now we're starting to see a little bit of decline and plateau with air travel.
Supply has something to do with that too, in terms of the delays and stuff. In other words, there's
they
not
didn't have the staff.
They don't have the staff to deal with demand that maybe wasn't pre-2020 levels, but was higher than the nothing you saw in the pandemic.
I have a viewer and listener who's watching the program who asked me not to use her name. She says, Jerry, there's a Soul of Charlottesville event planned at X Park on the Saturday after August 12th. So that would be August 13th. And she prays and is praying now that security is in place for that event at X Park. So back to, thank you for that comment. Alex, back to you here. What do you want to see? You're smarter than we are. What do you want to see where you can then start saying, I think it's plateauing here?
So to be honest, I'd first want to see a producer price index that is lower than CPI. In other words, I want to see that on the wholesale side, before things go to retail, are they seeing lower prices? If they begin to see lower prices, then I would then expect lower prices to translate into the retail sales, right? In the retail stores, what you buy in the store, what you buy online, etc. We are beginning to see, there's no doubt that inventory is very high now. I would argue we've seen a little bit of demand shift rather than demand increasing. I think what we're starting to see is a shift of demand from goods to services.
Explain that to people.
So we're seeing still some travel. We're still seeing people use certain types of services, maybe not dining out, but they're still going for experiences, perhaps because of course people were locked up for so long. They still want to get their travel in. They still want to have some experiences outside the home. But the high inventories at places like Walmart, places like Target are indicating that the trade-off of that, because obviously with inflation running as high as it is and wages not keeping pace, people don't have a bunch of money to spend on vacation and goods. So what we are seeing, I think, is people saying, I will forego the goods, I will forego buying things for myself, and I will buy experiences. And that's, I think, why we're still seeing the travel numbers hold up for now, but beginning to see inventory pile up at retailers, which
You saw
is
Target, Walmart,
Target,
that came
Walmart.
out at their quarterly earnings reports. They're like, we have way too many inventory. We're going to have to slash prices to move inventory, and that's why we saw their stock prices drop.
Exactly, which is a classic, high inventory is a classic late stage business cycle, meaning you have hit the peak and you are on your way to recession. So that also connects with the numbers that we are seeing in terms of economic growth.
This question, and you jump in anytime you want. Seriously, Judah, jump in anytime you want. And then we'll get to the viewers and listeners. If you have a question or comment, or you want to shape the discussion, put your stuff in the feed, your perspective in the feed, and we'll relay it live on air to the Antonio Banderas of finance himself, Alex Urpí. I'll throw this to you here. Do we think that this recessionary fear has been overpriced into the market?
That is certainly a possibility. One of the things to remember about the market is it's a forward indicator. It's not, it's very infrequently a lag, I would say. In other words, very rarely will something happen and then the market reacts, right? It would have to be usually that's an external shock. A war breaks out that the market didn't see coming, a terrorist attack happens, something that the market cannot foresee and therefore reacts afterwards. But typically, if you think about it, we've already seen a 20+% decline in the stock market. So that's a bear market. That's the market telling us since back in January, recession's coming, demand may be down, inflation is going to cause a decrease in demand. So that's the market telling you what it's seeing. And so I think it's not so much whether it's been overpriced, but rather that the question is it priced in? Is a recession priced into the market such that now going forward, you now have opportunities to buy because there's not too much downside left. And the key is it's not that there's never any downside left. Anytime you approach the bottom, you can't really pinpoint, all right, this is it.
Well, you've educated us so many times about timing the market. That's not the way you should invest.
So there still could be 5-10% downside left, but the question is most of the downside behind us? And there's a strong possibility that's the case. And in fact, Nicholas did some research that in numerous years in which you have a first half decline in the market, the second half often has a positive return. Not enough to compensate for the whole year. In other words, the whole year still ends up being a down market, right? But the second half ends up having positive return because of the fact that everything got priced in the first half. So if indeed this is what we're coming in, there's a good chance, just as the market was down before we got GDP 1 and GDP 2 negative, there's a good chance the market starts going up well before we sit there and say, all right, recession's over.
Judah Wickhauer, he's got something for. Ooh, Xavier's got a question. J-Dubs, jump in here first before we get to the closer.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's baked into the market. I think that in terms of vacations, I'm sure a lot of people already had that. It's not like you just cancel and eat the cost of whatever you lose.
But you can get travel insurance. But to your point,
yeah, you can get travel insurance. But let's say you were renting a house on the coast somewhere for a week. It's not like they're just going to give you your money back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's some of that. One of the things that makes me a little nervous, and I'll throw this to both you guys, and this is a real estate topic. And you guys Google this, there are a lot, nationally, a lot of people backing out of housing contracts right now. And why that is because the rates are escalating so quickly. We're talking people that have earnest money deposits that they're walking away from because rates have jumped so much that they can no longer afford the house that they look to purchase when they put the earnest money deposit down. That scares the bejeebus out of me when someone says, I'm going to walk away from $5 or $10 or $15 or $20,000 because rates jumped up and I'm not going to buy this house because I can't afford it anymore, so I'm just going to walk away from my deposit. That's happening at a national clip at about 15% of contracts right now. That's a lot. That's a lot. Another statistic I heard that was rather startling was pre-pandemic, home purchases by real estate investors was 1 in 10. Post-pandemic, home purchases by investors is 1 in 4. So 25% nationally of home purchases are going to people that are not actually living in the home themselves.
Yeah.
They're utilizing it as investment. Go ahead.
Well, what have we been talking about? our country becoming a land of rentals.
Yep.
Well, we've talked about this, our country coming into a land of the wealthy who own houses, and then those who service the wealthy renting. Which
Yeah, but what happened after 2008 when people were defaulting en masse? Like, what happened to those homes? I'm fairly certain a lot of them were snatched up by whether it was investors or investment companies, is people that didn't want to live in those houses but wanted easy rent money. And what happens when you own all of the, I doubt there are any communities that are entirely owned by those types of people.
Oh, I'll give you one example.
But what happens when they are?
Well, I'll give you one example. Michael Buchensky, First Heritage Mortgage, left a comment on Real Talk, I think it was last week, where he was processing a $22 million loan for a private equity firm to purchase an entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
$22 million to purchase an entire neighborhood, a PE firm owning it in Waynesboro. This is in Waynesboro. So it's happening.
And you have very, very large institutions such as BlackRock entering into this market that were not there before. And then as a piece of the entire pie, each individual firm is not huge, but it's giving you the signal that the institutional market is now seeing
the sharp money.
Yeah, there's also the big money. In other words, it's one thing to have a $22 million private equity, right? It's another thing when you have institutions that can come in with billions and do this. And that's what some of these very large institutions have the capability of doing. And again, I think it's those kinds of moves, I think, are more of a symptom rather than a cause. In other words, the institution is going in to buy this because they see future appreciation and or future cash flow.
Well, as the closer just said, Xavier Urpí, investors gravitate to opportunities wherever they are, no matter what they are. He's exactly right. He says, ask Antonio Banderas, actually, he said, ask Alex. He says, ask Alex if quantitative tightening will impact the stock market and how.
If the tightening from the Federal Reserve, this is a challenge. That's a good question, because typically tightening, you turn off the spigot of free money, the stock market does not react kindly to that. The question is, how many hikes has the stock market baked in? Does the stock market operate at prices now under the assumption that there was going to be 8 rate hikes? Or did they only bake in 2 and now they're sitting there and saying, well, now there might be more. So the question is how forward-looking the market was in terms of what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Because if the market has priced in the hikes, then you may not see as much of an impact as you would otherwise.
And your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question. I feel to some extent it has.
It has, right?
There has been so
God,
much talk.
Please, I hope.
I hope so as well. There's been so much talk about numerous rate hikes. The 75 basis points they did was not a surprise to anyone. Some people had even been assuming they might do a full 100 basis points, 1%. Right? So I feel like there's been so much talk that I would be rather surprised if the market as a whole sat there and said, oh my goodness, they're going to raise rates between 4 and 8 times. I'd be stunned unless they pull something else out of their box of tricks and say you're going to do some other way to suck money out of the system beyond rate hikes, which there's ways that they can do it with reserve requirements for banks and so forth. But unless they go down that road unexpectedly, I'd be stunned if the market is not aware of this.
How does the Fed lower its balance sheet?
Well, so there's a couple of ways, right? So the Fed lowers balance sheets by either selling bonds on the open market. So it has 3 ways to change interest rate: open market operations, reserve requirements, and the discount rate. So when you hear the Fed changing interest rates, what they're changing is the discount rate, the rate at which banks borrow from the Fed. So of course, if you think about it, once they push that rate up, everything else goes up. 2, the Federal Reserve can actually change the amount of money that banks are required to have on reserve. That's a little bit of a more drastic way to suck money out, is if you think about it, if you're a bank and you keep 10% of your deposits on reserve and lend the other 90%, and the Federal Reserve comes in and says, well, now you got to keep 20%, you just cut your lending. So you essentially suck money out of the system that way. And the third, of course, is that the Fed, of course, has a huge balance sheet of bonds. They can just flat out sell the bonds. And of course, if they dump bonds, price of bonds goes down, interest rates, yields on bonds go up. So those are the three ways they can do it. The question is, what Xavier may be thinking is, if they want more arrows in their quiver and don't feel like moving rates is enough, they may sell bonds, strangely enough, do like a quantitative tightening. This way they can then go buy bonds again if things go south and a large recession hits. But as usual, that's typical Federal Reserve. Let me do something contrary to what I might need to do in a year. This way I can actually do it in a year. But that wouldn't be surprising.
We love to zing the Fed. Kevin Yancey, I'll get to your comments in a matter of moments. Here's a very good comment. Get ready for this one. This is for both you guys here. This is from Danny O'Day. He works for Politico. He's a published author. He's a millennial looking to buy a house with his beautiful girlfriend. He's come on this talk show, very well-spoken guy. This is a phenomenal comment. Danny, I'm very impressed with this. Let's think about this as a broader issue. What do people own these days? Movies? No. They're rented from Netflix and Disney. Music? No. We get them from Spotify. Books? No. People listen to Audible books or read books. Kindle. They don't buy books. You're rare.
Yeah. I don't think you and I count.
These two are the anomaly who actually own books. They're the anomaly. He says this, and here's the thesis of his comment. Every single part of the American life has been broken apart, atomized, and put up for a neat little monthly payment. You got your gym memberships, your TV viewing, your music listening, your book reading, your newspaper reading. Everything is a renewable fee, a renewable membership. How is that shaping or impacting Gen Zers, Gen Alpha, and young millennials as we move forward? Because really ownership it's more a licensing.
It is.
What do you make of that comment? That got me thinking.
No, that's a very significant comment. I don't know if he's even heard. I just saw this on the news the other day. BMW.
Oh yeah.
When you buy a new BMW in Europe, you now have to pay a subscription monthly fee for the heated seats.
What?
Yeah, there is software installed.
I think that's in particular markets. I don't think that's across the world.
Yeah, it's not the whole world. It's markets in Europe. It's new ones coming out in Europe now. That there is software installed into this vehicle such that even though you have a heated seat in this car, I mean, it's there. It's a physical heated seat.
If you miss your monthly payment, no heated seat
Exactly.
for you.
The software will shut off your ability to turn on the heated seat unless you pay the monthly subscription for heated seat in the BMW that you bought.
Yeah.
So obviously that makes sense for BMW because you got incremental revenue there in perpetuity or for as long as you own the car. Because if you want a BMW and you're thinking luxury because you bought a BMW, you're probably going to stay committed to your heated seats.
Of course, you're going to pay it.
I mean, you're paying 80 G's for a car, probably 100K for a car. You're going to pay $9.99 a month for heated seats.
Exactly.
What do you make of that?
It is a little bit troubling to me, only in this sense. I recall there's a great book called The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek, great economist, theoretical mind in the 1900s, good anti-communist, anti-socialist writer. And he talked about how the consolidation, right, of ownership, of power, of goods, of services is more than the sum of its parts. In other words, if instead of 100 million people owning 100 million homes, you have 4 companies owning 100 million homes, and then everybody rents. The power that those four companies have is far more than the sum of 100 million people owning homes, because their power, with 100 million people owning homes, your power checks each other. With 4 companies, the power no longer checks it. So the extent to which ownership of goods is concentrated increasingly institutionally, and then all we do is rent and not own,
terrifying.
We are giving away not just money in that sense,
power and control.
Economic power.
Yeah, economic power and control. Judah, thoughts on this? I see the wheels turning over there.
Yeah, I mean, I find it terrifying, and what are you going to do when everything is portioned out to you based on your ability to pay for it. Or, I mean, like what they're doing in China is, I think, almost a form of that with the social points. And what if you do something that the ruling power doesn't like? How can they, what if they could restrict everything that you do? What if they could cut off your internet? What if they could stop you from traveling? What if they could stop you from, what if they could prevent you from buying food?
What if they cut off your currency?
Yeah.
Well, you know what they'll often do? They also did small levers. In other words, in China, we didn't like that you bought this book. You can buy the book. We're not very happy that you bought this book. Your interest rate, if you go to buy a house, has just increased.
It affects your credit.
Everyone else will only pay 3% interest. You will pay 5% interest because your social credit score is not very good. You bought this book. You went to this group. You hung out with these people. You posted this on social media. There's all these little levers that they use as well to sort of nudge your behavior because of the fact that you're reliant completely
That's
on
terrifying.
the system. It is. I mean, it is.
That is absolutely terrifying right there. What category of business is the most vulnerable right now, do you think? Well, besides food and beverage. Food and beverage we know is beyond vulnerable right now.
Absolutely. I mean, right now it seems certainly that next in line is retail. Is going to be your brick and mortar retail, probably followed shortly. It's always tough. Amazon is such a behemoth that it's tough to make predictions about what online shopping we'll see. But if this pattern holds and people for a while keep doing the experiences and cut out the goods, I would start to see your retail, maybe your luxury brands a little bit get hit first. Luxury gets hit first, and then of course it can come back later. Super high luxury for whatever reason sometimes never goes away because the uber rich will always be able to afford what they want. But your mid-tier luxury might start to see, in terms of goods, might start to get hit. Basically, usually what it goes is you've got your dining out, then comes your discretionary spending. Because you've got consumer discretionary and consumer staples as your two big consumer spending. Consumer discretionary is the things that we want but don't necessarily need. So not groceries, not, obviously rent is a staple, gasoline is a staple, but you're talking more the things that you go into a Target or a Walmart and something like that. But I don't need that. But that's it. Oh, that's a nice little dining room set. Oh, that's a nice towel rack. Oh, that's a nice object. Those things usually then begin to go because people begin to sense in their budget, I cannot afford to make impulse buys anymore.
Let me throw this to you here. So Alex Urpí, guys, has got a beautiful better half, and can I say that you're going to get a...
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. So man's going to get married soon, next year.
Next year.
Right? Is it around this time next year?
Around May next year.
May next year. Got a heck of a catch here. And
I
just
do feel very lucky.
You very much are. The fiancés are looking perhaps to purchase a house or a place to live. Talk to us about that. I mean, how's that? Are you hesitant, apprehensive because of the rates? Are you seeing that obviously it's becoming more of a buyer's market? Mm-hmm. The inventory is starting to stale and stay on the market longer. We're starting to see price drops. We're starting to see home inspections, contingencies returning, closing costs returning here. Your take on...
Which is certainly helpful. Yeah, we're in that phase. The challenge here is I'm kind of in that phase of when do I begin to look? Right, because obviously, you don't want to begin paying a monthly payment on a monthly mortgage payment on a house that you're not going to live in for
till May together.
Till May, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's sort of you don't want to buy at a peak of the market and then housing market crashes and it takes you a long time to recover, even if you can afford the monthly payment. And then you sit there and say, okay, with prices coming down, yes, I think we're past. I'm a little less apprehensive than I would have been, let's say, 3 months ago. Because I think we're a little bit past the phase of really high prices and extremely high mortgage rates. Now I think we're looking at prices stabilizing and really high mortgage rates. But the nice thing about really high mortgage rates is you can refinance in the future. So if you get a good price and you can afford the monthly payment, then then it's just a matter of when rates inevitably, I think, come down in the future, you refinance it. Not that that's free to do, but it's always an option. So for now, it's sort of the figuring out when do we begin to really look in earnest at locations, what we can afford, and so forth. But right now, it's sort of that nebulous period of things are going, prices are declining. If we hit recession, do prices really bottom out, and do we want to be left holding the bag? So it's right now, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of like a waiting game.
So is the waiting game spring?
But no, I think probably fall. I don't like to rush. I feel like in spring, then you get, plus I think cyclically in Charlottesville, just my sense is spring is, from my understanding, spring is when students, professors find out, did you get hired? Or you don't have to move to Charlottesville? And they all come in and try to get their houses. I think fall, they don't know yet. Typically, I think on the hiring cycle, as a new professor or a new staff member, you don't really know that you're going to be hired by UVA in the fall for the next fall semester. You kind of find out in spring. So I would probably try to avoid spring, get in before then.
Alex Urpí dropping knowledge bombs today on the program. About 5 minutes left, gentlemen. Comments coming in fast and furious. Philip Dow, who's the king of Scottsville, has this comment. What is scary, my college roommate never attempted to buy a house. Now he cannot afford a house and will be renting the rest of his life. I see this situation with a lot of people. New way of life now for many. It's very, very sad. I talk about this on the show in the past. My brother-in-law and his fantastic girlfriend, she's a nurse, and he has a very good job in doing ratings of supply chains. He rates supply chain efficiencies.
Interesting.
In a nutshell. So
what a time to be doing that job.
Right. So exhilarating time for him, rating supply chains. And I talk about this with my wife often. It's like they're younger than we are. It looks like they're heading in the direction of a family, marriage, etc. And I wonder of the challenge of them purchasing a house for the first time. And they're in a very expensive market in Connecticut, which is even more expensive than Charlottesville. Danny O'Day, people already have started subscribing to clothing boxes like Stitch Fix, where they can receive a selection of shirts, pants, etc., wear them for a month and return them. Even clothes on our backs are becoming rentals.
Man.
Wait, as in, no matter what, they have to return them, or they only return them if they don't like them?
So the model, it's a very intriguing model, is they send you a box each month, and in the box each month is your clothes, and then you return the box, and then you get another one. Yeah, so he made the point even clothes are becoming rentals.
You don't even own the clothes.
I mean, when's the next, who's going to create the business model of renting a pet? Where you want to get a dog, but you don't want the commitment and responsibility, pay $19.95 a month, and you have a selection of beagles or German shepherds or labs, and you can bring this dog into your life for however long as you want,
rent a pet,
and then give the dog back. The Netflix of dogs.
That is, that'll
happen.
I think that scares me.
Well, it's not great for the pet.
Exactly.
Well, as
a dog lover, that's a violation of how you should be.
I just think that once people start looking at life, any life, and we're not even talking about human life, but thinking of life in those terms, I just feel like that's a slippery slope to something. I think we're already in a way dissociating with the proliferation of social media. And to start thinking about life in terms of just like something that you can rent and give back, that terrifies me.
Bill McKenzie says he still wears his Izod alligator shirts from the 1970s. Thank you, Bill McKenzie, for letting us know that. We love you, Wild Bill.
No, if it ain't broke,
somebody's got to
get rid of it. Yeah, if it ain't broke,
somebody's got to keep the torch alive.
I love that, Bill McKenzie. Kevin Yancey, King of Waynesboro. You work a job that takes income tax. You take your wages to maintain your basics. You pay a sales tax on that. You buy fuel to be able to get to work, and you're taxed on that. You buy a house, and you pay various interest rates to repay it, but you're taxed on that home, and now you pay for the rain, storm, water tax. See the common denominator? It's taxes. Yeah. Hey, Kevin Yancey, you don't have to preach to me, the libertarian.
Preaching to the choir here.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Nicholas, to tell you a lot about the issues with double taxation.
Yeah, taxation, the gentrification, the strongest form of gentrification is taxation. Vanessa Parkhill says, renting a pet is like fostering, no? Yeah, fostering is like renting a pen. All right, so Alex Urpí, the show is yours, my friend. You have quite a few of your followers watching the program. What do you want to cover, my friend?
So in terms of what we're doing this Thursday? Or,
Sure. Today
I
and
mean,
mañana.
yeah, we can talk a little bit about today and mañana. Got a couple great people coming on. We're going to have first Erica Mitchell, another small business owner, Sweet Art Emporium.
Ooh.
Here, another CIC graduate, really doing a little effort to feature some great graduates from CIC. That organization does just so much work to help people really start those small businesses. And really that's, I mean, one of the beautiful things, and I think what it speaks to a lot of this rental question is we seem to be suffering greatly from a lack of commitment. To buy something indicates that you have a commitment, right? In other words, if you buy a book, you intend not just to read that book, but to reread that book, to really think about the book, to put it on your bookshelf. If you buy a CD of music, and this is going way back, in other words, if you purchase music, you better want to listen to that music more than once, right? But to do a subscription of this, or of clothes, or of pets even, is to basically say, I don't want to be committed to anything. I want to just bounce back and forth between things, always seeking new thrills. Attention spans, I think, are the lowest they've ever been at this point. And I think one of the beauties of, as opposed to that model, the small business model, is that everything about a small business means commitment, right? You are committed to the business. You're committed to the people you serve.
It's your child.
It's your child. The people who come in are then committed to you. In other words, there's no such thing as a subscription with my local small business person. They're right there. Like, I'm committed to supporting their business. You don't just jump from, well, now I'll do this small business this week, and then tomorrow I'll go patronize him and I'll dump him, and then tomorrow I'll go to her and I'll dump my other one. You form relationships, you form commitments, and I think that is part of what we have to, in many ways, rediscover and maybe reconnect with, even if it means abandoning what I think has become a very urban lifestyle of just getting everything sent to us and having no connection. I think the pandemic really hurt us in that way. We were already on that trend. I think the pandemic just exacerbated what we were already doing. And I think we need to get past that and begin to reconnect a little more person to person and say, do I really want to live an atomized, to use Daniel, just an atomized lifestyle where everything, all my relationships are with large corporations mailing me things or sending them in drones every day, as opposed to me going out and connecting with people and connecting with small business owners. So it's one of the things we're really trying to push on today, Mañana, is make sure like people feel that connection and that they see there's faces behind these small businesses, and you want to be connected with them.
That was one of the man's best takes on this show.
Oh, thank you.
That was phenomenal.
I couldn't have, I just came out.
That was
from
poignant.
The heart there.
I'm going to give the man the round of applause here.
Thank you.
Oh my God. It moved me right there. Amen. Listen to what Alex Urpí just said. And if we want our friends and our families and the brands and businesses that we love to survive, we do have to make the commitment to help them to survive, which is the thesis of what he's saying. Yes, convenience is nice, and yes, having something delivered to your doorstep is convenient, but folks, that is going to be the demise of the businesses and brands we love. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he's saying. The show is called Today y Mañana. It is undoubtedly one of the best podcasts in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's up for Best of CVille. Did we get results?
Well, I think the results, I've heard that they come in at the end of this month. So voting ended.
Okay.
But I don't think we've heard back yet on who won each section.
Maybe Best of CVille winner Today y Mañana.
Crossing
the fingers, where they're going to have the CVille party, and we're going to have the Urpís on stage getting a plaque or an award.
That would be nice.
That would be very nice.
Always
that would
feels
be very
good.
nice.
Always feels good to know people appreciate what you do.
Susan Bashleen, so true, Alex. We need to support local more than ever. Xavier, your boy Alex crushed it today. Mrs. Urpí, your son was on fire today in Fuego. Today Mañana airs Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille
Today
Network.
Mañana, also really interesting, just real quick, Joshua Raimundo, he's a strategic director of the Libre Institute of Virginia, which is like a group, basically it's a nonprofit helping Latinos really get connected with economic news, business assistance. So this will be my first time connecting with him, so we're really excited for that as well. So a Latino organization really pushing that small business acumen, economic acumen among the Latino community. So I'm really excited for that as well.
Your dad says you're a gem.
Oh, thanks.
I
I appreciate it.
I love the Urpí so much. We have our conference call in T-minus 22 seconds, by the way. T-minus 22 seconds.
I took you guys right to the end this
I'm
time.
going to kill for the first 1 minute of time. Hopefully the client's not watching the show right now. You were phenomenal Thursdays at 10:15. You did a heck of a job as well. This show is the I Love CVille Show. We thank the Clifton for being a part of the show. Try the restaurant at the Clifton. It is dynamite. Listen to Today Mañana. Watch it Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. For Judah Wickhauer, Alex Urpí, I am Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show. So long, everybody. Good job, Alex.
Oh, thank you guys. That was fantastic.
Phil, and let me give you a fist bump on that.